Shots fired. Trump versus De Santis. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Many people are intrigued about a situation where you have some narc-on-narc action, where two narcissists get involved in a smackdown. Of course, it doesn't always go that way. Sometimes the individuals actually work together for a period of time, sometimes an elongated period of time, the process of narcissistic cementation. In other instances, it's tempestuous, an on-off relationship, for example, often seen where two narcissists collide in a romantic coupling. But there's no romance here. No. Instead, we're looking at a clash of two political narcissists. In one corner, the Donald, former President of the United States, an upper lesser type B narcissist. What this means is, what you see is what you get. Driven by an unshakable confidence in his own ability, irrespective of any evidence to the contrary, Mr. Trump believes that he is numero uno. He's been there, he's done that. His ideas are the best. He's effective. He deems that anybody that gets in his way is essentially an idiot. It's his way or the highway. Don't like what he's got to say? Essentially, fuck you. He can exhibit some charm. He is bombastic. He's belligerent. He's boastful. He has said things which, of course, have got him into trouble. Not that he gives a flying fuck about that. He's simply expressing himself. And of course that's part of his appeal to some voters, that rather than polish things and spin things and hide behind weasel words, he says what he thinks. That he has a particular approach, and essentially it does what it says on the tin. Of course, along the way, he is like that proverbial wrecking ball, causing problems for other people around him, which of course then come and chase after him thereafter. His current litigation woes being evidence of that. What causes some people to despise him causes others to love him, and he's very much that Marmite character that comes with an upper lesser type B. There are those that don't like the fact that he doesn't come across as particularly statesmanlike. There are others who love that, seeing him as a refreshing wind of change through the political establishment, and sees him as a lone crusader against those long-term politicos who have a vested interest, and that's why he wanted to drain the swamp. Of course, he's looking for the Republican nomination to take on whichever Democratic nominee is put forward to try and become president in 2024. Governor Ron De Santis is looking to become president also. The Republican primary field is taking shape with these two hopefuls in the form of Donald Trump and Ron De Santis. De Santis, unsurprisingly, is a narcissist also, but he's of a different breed to that of Donald Trump. He is upper mid-range, meaning that he has a more polished approach to matters, that he utilizes charisma more often than Trump, who relies more on a bully boy busting his way through things, which of course invariably has proved effective for him. But with De Santis, he's seen more as a statesman. He'd be viewed more as utilizing some polish and some charm, being more smooth in that respect compared to a more rough and ready approach from Mr. Trump. Mr. De Santis is there that ordinarily he would be more about the schmoozing of individuals and far more likely to utilize spin. Less likely to answer a direct question in the way that Donald Trump does, but also more mindful with a degree of instinctive planning as to what might happen as a consequence of his own actions. And therefore, with the two of them invariably going to clash, It is a fascinating situation of two narcissists colliding, upper lesser type B versus upper mid-range. And already, the super PACs supporting the top two Republican presidential hopefuls have opened up a wave of TV attack ads, such as the way in the United States, as part of a multi-million-dollar attempt to control the political narrative in the early days of an increasingly likely primary match-up. The two groups, MAGA Incorporated, which is backing former President Donald J. Trump, and Never Back Down, supporting Governor Ron De Santis of Florida, they've already spent over $7.5 million combined. I understand that MAGA Inc. has spent exclusively on cable networks, while Never Back Down has targeted states that have traditionally held the party's earliest presidential nominating contests, according to spokesmen for the two super PACs and data from Ad Impact, an ad tracking firm. So both of these two individuals, of course, need to assert control over the relevant states that hold the nominating contests. They need to be able to persuade people to back them. And as always, part of that is considering, do you hold yourself out as standing for something so that people are drawn to you and you assert control over them by essentially causing them to like you? Or do you attack your opponent to make your opponent look completely untrustworthy, despicable, so that nobody in their right mind would vote for them, and therefore, by default, they'd be more inclined to vote for you? Either way, the narcissist needs to assert control over those individuals that hold the nominations in their hands. They need to be persuaded. Trump is likely, of course, to go in his usual attack dog style. Of course, De Santis isn't going to hold back either. But with Trump, they have more of an in-your-face method, something I'll be touching on very shortly. Both of these groups reflect the politicians' disparate standings in the party. Mr. Trump, the businessman turned TV star who's led two national political campaigns and announced his third last year, is universally recognised inside the party, and therefore he will look to leverage that advantage with a broad attack against Mr. De Santis. Mr. De Santis, who has all but declared his 2024 candidacy and remains a distant second to Mr. Trump in most public opinion polls, is still going through the introduction of himself to voters. Interestingly, a poll by the Republican research firm Signal in Iowa showed 18% of respondents said they'd never even heard of Mr. De Santis or that they didn't know much about him. If he opens a presidential campaign as expected in the coming months, his chance of defeating Mr. Trump will largely depend on his performance in the early primary states. Mr. De Santis apparently will have the resources to make up ground. Never Back Down has said it has already raised $30 million, part of a $110 million war chest available to his allies. MAGA Inc. reported $54.1 million on hand at the end of 2022. These war chests both being residual benefits for these narcissists. What Mr. Trump's organisation and backers have done is to fire shots at Mr. De Santis with a recent advertisement which has attacked De Santis over his supposed eating habits alongside his policy positions. It aired on CNN and Fox and Newsmax. Here, Donald Trump, through the extension of the relevant supporters and backers, seeks to denigrate De Santis, thus with a smear, so that he is nullified and that potential decision makers are put off him, and thus they are controlled also. The advertisement, which basically shows an actor tucking into a chocolate pudding with his fingers and with various associated unpleasant noises of eating, is clearly aimed to link disgust with De Santis And at the same time, it details such as that he's voted to cut Social Security 3 times. The advertisement accuses Mr. De Santis of sticking his dirty fingers into senior entitlement programs, referring to his support for changes to Medicare and Social Security when he was a member of Congress. It also mocks Mr. De Santis, a fast food and snack enthusiast, for supposedly once eating a pudding with 3 fingers instead of waiting for a spoon. De Santis has denied this. Of course, he would do so as that is an attack upon his character, which his narcissism would reject. The advertisement states, Ron De Santis loves sticking his fingers where they don't belong, and we're not just talking about pudding. A useful smear, if anything. The narrator states this as an anonymous man in a suit sloppily eats pudding with his hands. De Santis has his dirty fingers all over senior entitlements, like cutting Medicare, slashing Social Security, even raising the retirement age. No punches being pulled in that early smear attack upon him. Putting him down, suggesting that he is both disgusting in his eating habits and disgusting with regard to his dirty fingers being all over certain senior entitlements in an attempt to sway those voters to not support him and support Mr. Trump instead. Such an advertisement would be typical of the style of Mr. Trump, basically getting straight into your opponent, gouging the eyes and kneeing him in the bollocks. Queensberry rules won't apply. And therefore, it is indicative of the way that Donald Trump's narcissism would guide the style of his campaign, entirely commensurate with that non-facade utilizing upper lesser type B. But De Santis hasn't, of course, lain down, and in a forthcoming video, you'll see how he fires shots back at Donald Trump. Join me there.